In episode 3, the father in Leighton wants to get Liana back, but also the cop in Leighton has the ability to do that. He's got the skills, and he knows that. Leighton, though, knows that there's only one way to actually get Liana back, and that's to get Big Alice, the engine, the thing that really controls New Eden, helps power the community, helps keep it alive. And the thing about this is, Leighton isn't asking permission. He's demanding that he take Big Alice, because in his mind, it's not a question of whether or not this is the right move. He's not waiting for a democratic process or a vote. No. He's taking Big Alice, and he's not taking no for an answer. He storms into Alex's office, and he asks her, how long is it going to take to unhook this thing? Alex tries to explain to him that it's not that simple just to get Big Alice back to a working train. And as she's explaining this to him, Ruth comes in and says, Leighton, we need to talk. It's not going to go down like this. She realizes that Leighton is in a very emotional state at this moment, and because of that, she doesn't think Leighton is thinking clearly about what taking Big Alice means for New Eden and means for the residents of New Eden. It could mean death. While she feels for Leighton in this moment, she does not think the juice is worth the squeeze. She demands that they convene the council to talk about this. The only problem is one of the council members, Roach, is on patrol. So as they wait for him to come back, the group kind of just argues about whether or not this is the right move. As they're discussing this, Sykes walks in because rumors are swirling in New Eden that Leighton is going to be taking Big Alice and it would affect everybody. This does start a conversation between Javi and Alex on whether or not taking Big Alice would be the death nail for New Eden. Javi saying, no, I don't think it would be. I think we can jerry-rig a situation where New Eden would still survive for at least a couple weeks while Leighton goes after Liana. That's when Leighton cuts in and says, I understand that this is a tricky situation. I don't want to ruin New Eden, but I need to get my daughter back, so we need to figure out what we're going to do. And Ruth tells him, look, the days of hijacking trains are over. But that's not good enough for Leighton. He's not about to sit back and wait for the kidnappers to bring back Liana. He's going to be proactive, and he storms out. He heads to go try to figure out if he can rig up the track scaler to go after Liana, and as he's doing so, Josie comes and tries to talk some sense into him, but Leighton's completely beyond hearing reason at this point. He's just got one goal in mind, and that's to get his daughter back. He gets so nasty that Josie has to tell him, I don't know who you are right now. Leighton, though, can't figure out a way to get the track scaler to work, so he heads back into town, and that's when he runs into the town drunk, Osweiler. He starts talking to Leighton about how that morning he saw a dove, and he thought it was a sign from Zara about hope, but Leighton just gets pissed off at him and throws him aside, not wanting to hear any of his nonsense. In fact, he blames Zara's death on Os, because he feels like if Os would have just come down in the town, it would have meant that Zara didn't have to go up in the mountains to heal him up and thus led to her death. The bird, though, that Osweiler saw in the sky wasn't just any bird. It was Mr. Sprinkles, Alex's coworker. And when Alex tracks him down, she finds that Mr. Sprinkles, R.I.P. folks, pour one out for him, has died. After collecting the Mr. Sprinkles sample, she starts to head back into the town and she runs into Josie, who is sitting at the site of where Zara died, and she's just beating herself up over it. But it's really everything. It's the fact that Zara died. It's the fact that Liana was taken. Josie's feeling some guilt about all of that. And as Alex is trying to comfort Josie about this, she starts to suffer another nosebleed. With Alex, though, in the mountains, that leaves Big Alice unattended, and Leighton plans on taking advantage of that. He grabs Javi. At first, Javi does want to help Leighton out, but Leighton gets more and more and more aggressive until finally Javi says, look, I'm trying to help you out because you're my friend. But Leighton's pushy, he's persistent, he's blaming Javi for not working fast enough, and it's just not that simple. Javi can't get Big Alice working as a train and power up New Eden fast enough for Leighton's liking, because Leighton at the moment is just seeing red. After a little bit, Javi is able to figure out how to switch the power to a very limited source, thus allowing them to take Big Alice. And when they flip the switch, it works. As Leighton puts his plan into full effect, one person that's been really battling over this issue is Ruth. She is in charge of the town, and she has a conversation with Josie about the struggles of letting Leighton take the train, whether or not it's the right move. Like many people, Josie sees both sides of this situation. But as the two are having this conversation, Sykes comes in and tells both Ruth and Josie what Leighton's plan has been. She caught them in the act. Ruth is able to catch up to Leighton just before he enters Big Alice. But she's backed by both Josie and Sykes. Leighton tells them, "You're not keeping me off that train. Javi was able to get power to the town. I'm going to go after my daughter." Fortunately for Leighton, he's really no match for Sykes. I mean, she beats the crap out of him. And it's not like Josie or Ruth enjoy watching this go down. They have no choice but to lock up Leighton. Ruth goes and discusses it with Roach, and Roach has Leighton's back because he tells Ruth, "You decided this all on your own, that this is what's best for the town, but you didn't actually take it to a vote. I mean, I'm a father. I know what I would do if I was in his situation." So he encourages Ruth to open it up to the town. Let everybody decide. Let a democratic society actually be democratic. And while Leighton, of course, would rather just be allowed to take the train, he's going to have to deal with the people of New Eden buying what he's selling. While Leighton figures out exactly what he's going to say to the people of New Eden, Javi, who wasn't arrested, by the way, he goes and chats with Alex and notices that she's cutting open Mr. Sprinkles. He's very surprised about that, but Mr. Sprinkles was dead after all. She explains that she anticipated Mr. Sprinkles' death because she was sending him to the edge of the pocket to gather data. She figured that one day he would fly out too far and freeze to death, but that's not what happened. No, it was exsanguination, and I'll let all of you take a second to bing.com that word. 1 second. Okay, yep. Okay, we're done. As you now know after rocking a Bing search, exsanguination is the severe loss of blood. And what it tells Alex is that her nosebleeds aren't a fluke because she gets them every time she's near the edge of the pocket. As for the rest of it, Alex knows she just has to follow the data. Alex, like the rest of New Eden, will now have to go to town hall and listen to both sides of the case, whether or not Leighton should be allowed to take Big Alice. Before Leighton does make that case, he needs to make up with Josie. Josie feels like Leighton has been completely tone deaf throughout this situation, and she explains to Leighton that she's been with that little girl, Liana, since she was born. She was with Zara when Zara died, so when Josie pushes back on the idea that Leighton should take Big Alice, she's not doing it out of spite, because Josie lost people too. It's a lot for Leighton to think about as he heads into the town hall. Ruth makes her pitch, and Leighton makes an impassioned plea that's pretty somber, actually. But at the end of it, Leighton is allowed to take Big Alice. He's going to have 3 weeks. That's it. He has to return by 3 weeks. That's as much power as the town has. And that's with all things going well. Ideally, he would return before that. He, however, will not be going alone. There's people from the tail, like Z, who are coming along with him. They know that they can't let him go alone and, tails stick together. And while initially it was thought that Javi would go along with Leighton, no, it's going to be Alex. After looking at the data that she talked about, she looked at New Eden and thought, what if it's not a warm spot but a bubble? And bubbles burst. The only way to get these answers is to leave New Eden. Josie will also be going along with Leighton, but maybe the most surprising person to go along with Leighton is Ruth. Even though she was completely against this idea, as she tells Leighton, "It's my job to make sure this thing gets back in time." While they're gone, Roach is going to hold down the fort. And as for what's going on in Snowpiercer, well, after the little stunt, both Ben and Till were thrown into the brig, but they were both taken out because Admiral Milius has a job for them. He brings Ben in front of a body that looks completely charred up, and he explains that he had the wrong guy working on an engineering problem. It has to do with the last car of the train, the AgSac car, agriculture. They need to rewire some things. There's a chemical compound. Dr. Neema starts to explain it. And Ben does it because he's able to negotiate a little less work time for his colleagues. He's also able to negotiate that Till come with him. But when they really start to dive into the issue, they feel like there's something that both Milius and Neema aren't telling them. I mean, for one, Ben looked at the body, and whatever killed this guy wasn't electrical. It was chemical burns. Ben thought if he got Neema one-on-one, he could get the truth out of him. When Ben is finally able to do that, he approaches Neema pretty cautiously because Neema does have guards around him. And he tells Neema, "Dude, the Admiral does not respect you. Everybody can see it, so do you want to level with me and tell me what's going on?" Neema gets real close to Ben and starts to say, "The Admiral, he wasn't always the Admiral." But then a soldier walks by them, and Neema changes his story and his tone, and he starts saying how the Admiral earned his stripes by keeping everybody alive. Follow his orders, and you'll stay alive. Right before Ben leaves, he says, "Why should I trust anything that comes out of your mouth?" And Neema tells him, "Because Melanie does." Neema, though, does stay quiet when later on Milius asks him, what did Ben want? He doesn't rat him out at all. He says that Ben was just asking about the electrical situation. And when Milius asks him if they were up to something, would you tell me? He reluctantly says, yes, I would tell you. But the fact is, they are up to something. They're trying to figure out exactly what they're doing in the last car, trying to rewire some electrical problem that doesn't really exist. They're able to figure out that, yes, there is something sinister going on here. There's chemicals, and they're not safe because there's chemical mass around. Ben starts to hypothesize that maybe it's not about killing people, though. Maybe it's about experimenting on people, like Admiral Milius's hit team. Those guys have definitely had work done, and not like Botox in the lips. What Till and Ben decide to do is try to use these chemicals against them. They both stall so long that it forces Milius and Neema and a couple other people down to check on the progress. Neema, however, catches on to what they're about to do, and he warns the Admiral, who is able to get out of the car, but Neema isn't. Till is able to trap him, triggering the gas, and she tells him, this is for Audrey. And as he's being choked out, Neema says, she made it to New Eden. Neither Till or Neema die from this. Till and Ben are both thrown in a prison. Till's knocked out. And when she finally comes to, Ben asks, what were you thinking? And Till says, it worked. I found out information. I found out that Audrey made it, and she's safe. And Ben realizes that is why the group has been pushed so hard. Audrey making it to New Eden pushed Milius's timeline up. But they also realized the trap that they were setting up in the last car wasn't for Snowpiercer. It was for Big Alice.
Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry. It'll be up in a day or two.